Hello, my name is Brian Faulkner, SPVS President for 2017. In this short video, I want to invite you to join me and your colleagues at a new SPVS initiative called the SPVS Leadership Academy, which I have set up as part of my presidential year. So the aim of the Leadership Academy is to help SPVS members improve a range of practice management systems, but with particular focus on helping improve practice profitability. I also want to demonstrate some of the practical applications of our various surveys at SPVS, but especially our profitability survey, which we launched in 2016. So the Leadership Academy will take place over 4 days, split into 2 times 2-day meetings, one of them in March and another one in May. I'll give you more details in a moment. I've gone for a relatively central location in the country, just outside Warwick, and the hotel that we'll be using is the Walton Hall Hotel and Spa, chosen so we can combine CPD during the day with a little R&R in the evening. The hotel has all the usual pool, spa, gym facilities that you would expect. So the first 2 days will be on the 22nd and the 23rd of March. And I want to run through some of the content that I'm going to focus on and cover. So day 1, that's on 22nd of March, will be entitled Introducing and Measuring the Proactive Pursuit of 4 Outcomes. So I believe that in order to be successful, every veterinary practice must pursue and achieve 4 outcomes. Every case, every species, every time, if you like. And these 4 outcomes are clinical resolution, client satisfaction, financial resolution, and colleague satisfaction. Let me just briefly define each and give a little bit of meat on the bones, if you like. So clinical resolution refers to the prevention and resolution of clinical disease. So I've observed over 2,000, maybe 2,500 consultations over the last 3 to 5 years. And I can tell you there's a significant spectrum of attitudes with respect to clinical proactivity within the practices that I coach and work with. And I will discuss some of the simple measurements and dashboard systems that I use to track this clinical proactivity. Client satisfaction. This is an emotion that occurs when a client feels that what they've been told and sold, if you like, is the right thing for a fair price. Because it's entirely possible for a client to have been given the best evidence-based technical advice there is and yet be doubtful or even dissatisfied with that advice because it doesn't fit with their assumptions and beliefs about what's actually wrong with their pet or what, in their opinion, should be done about it. So once again, I will discuss some of the simple measurements and dashboard systems that I will use to track client activity and satisfaction. The third outcome, financial resolution, relates to discussions about money during our dealings with clients. So I'm going to look at ways to track and measure productivity in the consultation room, as well as levels of profitability that we can expect to achieve from turnover. I will also look at some of the psychological reasons why some vets just don't like talking about money. So I call this econophobia, and I've identified various reasons why we do this. The fourth outcome, colleague satisfaction, means that we have to perform our work in a way that, 1, doesn't lead to a build-up of tension and stress within ourselves as practitioners and thus compromise our own well-being. And 2, we have to work in a way whereby our actions and our behaviours don't negatively impact upon the morale of those that we work with. So I have found that compromised team morale is much less often as a result of personality types and intentional aggravating behaviours, and it's much more to do with the tension that results from ineffectual management systems. So my stress equation is stress equals uncertainty multiplied by urgency. So where there is uncertainty and where there is urgency, i.e. time pressure or deadlines, there will be stress. So if we don't manage our businesses and our colleagues in a way that recognises this incessant and inevitable uncertainty and urgency that's inherent in veterinary practice, we will have well-being issues, stress, fatigue and exhaustion sooner or later. So this first day is all about understanding these concepts and then looking at how leadership, culture and motivation can be applied in order to try and achieve them in your practice. In the evening, we're going to have a group meal and a stay over at the hotel, followed by the next day. And on the second day, that's going to be the 23rd of March, we're going to take a closer look at financial productivity. In the morning half of that day, we're going to look at how to drive productivity inside the consultation room. In other words, you can't make profit out of turnover you don't have. So we're going to look all about how to drive turnover in a very fair, ethical and reasonable way. The second half of this day will focus on understanding the profit and loss sheet and how we use it to then drive improvements in our practice's profitability. And we're going to look here at some of the SPVS profitability survey results to actually see what's happening out in the field. The second two-day session is going to be on the 10th and the 11th of May. And it's going to be at the same location in Warwickshire. So on the third day, we're going to look at marketing, very much from a strategic point of view. I'm not talking about Facebook and adverts and all that sort of stuff. I'm talking about strategic marketing. And the single most effective thing you can do, I believe, to improve your marketing is measure your active client numbers, as well as the average amount of money each client spends at your practice per annum. So I call this average spend the yield. And everything else really we do is simply just tactics to achieve your active client and yield objectives. So the first thing is define it, work out what's reasonable, what are other people doing, and then work out ways to achieve it. And the most common marketing mistake that I see when coaching practices is that they're using tactics that don't really complement their marketing goals or their marketing or practice philosophy. So this is a bit like using a Toyota wheel on a BMW. Both are good wheels, but if they're not designed to complement the system they're being used on, sooner or later we're going to get trouble. So this day we'll look at understanding client numbers, marketing strategies and practice differentiation within that. So again, once again in the evening we're going to have a meal and a stay over at the hotel and a little bit of R&R. The final of the 4 days, which is going to be Thursday the 11th of May, we're going to look at recruiting, inducting, training, appraising, and even removing members of staff. So virtually every practice I work with is feeling the effects of a dry recruitment pipeline, or at least for experienced vets. And I think we have to accept the reality that it's less and less likely that we will be able to hire the finished vet product now from the vet shop. We're going to have to get more creative about how to attract, induct, mentor and train vets to work within our systems. Now this is where the corporates of course have an advantage of the economies of scale, but independent practices can respond in affordable ways if we think about it. Maybe the SPVS New Graduate Academy is a future offering that we can do at SPVS, whereby SPVS members can send their recent graduates the same way as the corporates do in-house. And folks, we're also going to have to think about the reasons why our vets just don't stay with us, or even stay with the profession. Remember that I said stress equals uncertainty multiplied by urgency. We're going to have to look at ways to help buffer our fledgling recruits through the inevitable and incessant uncertainty and urgency that is inherent in veterinary practice, as I've said. And I'm not talking about molly-cuddling kids here, and just because we were thrown in at the deep end, that we throw our arms up and say, what's wrong with these youngsters, and it's not going to solve the problem. I think there's a lot we can do to become better mentors in practice as well. There are a few generational reasons, of course, why the millennials are more prone to doubt, becoming self-doubt, i.e. they allow the doubt and the uncertainty that's inherent in our work to turn into self-doubt. But I think as a profession we do this a lot as well. And I sincerely believe this tendency within us to allow doubt, if you like, to become self-doubt, lies at the heart of many of our well-being issues. So I coach young vets virtually every week, and this is the thing they love the most. I talk them through the defensive strategies that people use to cope with this self-doubt, such as perfectionism, and how we can get trapped into these cycles or these strategies, and we don't actually know how to escape them, as opposed to thinking that we need to escape our jobs or even escape the whole profession. I see this most commonly occurring around the 2, 3, 4 year graduate stage, and I call this the 3-year wobble of self-doubt. So we'll talk about it on this 4th day. So the price of the course is £1,000 plus VAT, and this includes the tuition and the meals. Now attendees must be SPVS members. CPT certificates will be provided. And you have to sign up for the whole course. Now you can potentially send another SPVS colleague from your practice. They have to be a SPVS member. But what I'm saying is you can't just buy 1 or 2 or even 3 of the 4 days. We have to sell this and manage this as a course. Accommodation at the hotel will be extra, but a special rate of, I think, £120 maximum, maybe even less potentially, but it's a reasonable rate, has been negotiated. The numbers, I'm going to restrict the course to about 20 numbers per day, and it's very much a first come, first served offering. So I hope that appeals. I hope you feel that we're trying to do something practical for you in practice, and we're going to talk about all these issues that I know that many of us are working and struggling through, from recruitment to profitability and all these various things. So I hope that appeals. So to sign up, either call or email the office using the details shown, and I hope to see you there. All the best.